Good morning to all. Bonjour tout le monde, and welcome to the 5th annual Windward Islands Debating Competition, hosted for the second time by the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. My name is Tracy Pilgrim George, and it is my pleasure for the next 2 days to be your mistress of ceremony. Please stand as we begin the morning's proceedings with the national anthems of the participating territories, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, and Grenada. We now invite Annalise Welcome and Benelli St. C with the opening blessings. And then we continue with the next national anthems. Let's meet our debaters. Representing 758 St. Lucia, our team members are Ashley Barnett, Jaden Lubar, Jolou Constantine, and Rankage King. A little bit of background of our debaters, ladies and gentlemen. Ashley Barnett is a 17-year-old currently pursuing her degree in biology at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Jaden Lubraw is a 17-year-old who is pursuing his studies and is in an associate's degree in chemistry with a minor in biology at the college. Jean-Luc is also a 17-year-old here at the college who is currently studying the CAPE subjects of law, sociology, and literature. And finally, on our team, 758 team, we have Rankage King, who is a 16-year-old currently pursuing studies in sustainable business and innovation at the college. 758 team, good luck. From the Spice Isle, Dominica. Grenada, sorry Grenada. I'm giving you your spices over to our sister country here. Dominica State College, 767. Representing the team, the 4 debaters from Dominica are Hanel Valerie. He is a 19-year-old, currently a second-year student at the Dominica State College. He is pursuing an associate's degree in biology, chemistry, and physics. The next member of the team, Noah James. Noah is currently attending Dominica State College and pursuing a double degree in mathematics as well as physics. Next we have Shaunalee Gordon. She is a second-year major at Dominica State College, currently pursuing an associate's degree in mathematics, accounting, and business administration with a concentration in finance. Sami Daru is the 4th member of the debating team. She is currently a second-year student at the Dominica State College, majoring in biology. Now we have the Spice Isle. Grenada, T.A. Marishaw Community College, 473. And the 4 members of the debating team are Charissa Sylvester. She is from the Caribbean Isle of Grenada, and she's an 18-year-old. She is majoring in law, sociology, literatures in English, and Caribbean studies. The second member of the team, Colleen Blanche, who is a 17-year-old student and aspiring forensic scientist. The third member of the team, Joshua Andal. He is a second-year student studying business. Majors are business management, economics, pure maths, and applied mathematics. And finally, the final member of the team from Grenada is Rebecca Bennett. Rebecca is a student who is majoring in law, sociology, and management of business. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the team representing Grenada. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 784. We have 21-year-old Nisha Richards. Nisa is pursuing her degree, an associate's degree, in secondary education. Hello, Nisa. The second person on the team is Marika Baptiste. She is a 16-year-old pursuing her CAPE studies in biology, chemistry, physical education and sports, and communication studies. Next, we have Junior Primus. Junior is a 24-year-old, and his program of study, he is pursuing an associate's degree in education, specifically primary education. Next, we have 26-year-old Shaden McLean. Her program of study is a Bachelor of Science Nursing. Her career aspirations is to be a traveling nurse. Ladies and gentlemen, our team from St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. And there you have it. Dominica State College, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. T.A. Marishaw Community College, Grenada, and Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, St. Lucia. Debaters, please stand for the recital of the WIDC Pledge. I pledge
to adhere to the rules of the Windward Islands debating competition. I pledge to respect my fellow competitors and to conduct myself in a manner that will not bring the competition into any disagreement. I also pledge that the information I present as evidence to support my argument is factual.
Thank you very much, debaters. Please take your seats. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderators and judges for this year's debate under the theme Intellectual Enrichment for Leadership. Our moderator this morning is none other than Raisa Joseph, who is a St. Lucian citizen and who believes in and celebrates Caribbean indigenous practices. She is an alumna of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, where she pursued A-levels in sociology, Spanish, and history, and received awards for sociology, Spanish, and the highest academic achievement. Ms. Joseph holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science with International Relations and a Master of Philosophy in Political Science from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. She was the valedictorian for the 2017 graduating class of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Presently, Ms. Joseph serves as a board member of the Monsignor Patrick Anthony Folk Research Center. She is also a member of the St. Lucia National Reparations Committee and teaches in the areas of Caribbean Studies and Communication Studies. Ms. Joseph is the principal consultant at From Classroom to Community, a political science consultancy she founded in 2020 and currently operates. Our moderator for this afternoon's and morning's proceedings is none other than Raisa Joseph. And our judges, very important positions. We begin with our first judge, Raymond Joseph. Ms. Joseph is a retired educator. She has worked as a science teacher at the St. Joseph's Convent School in Castries, a science tutor at the Division of Teacher Education, and later served as Dean of the Division of Teacher Education of the college from 1993 to 2003. Since her retirement, she serves as the coordinator for the Catholic education with the Archdiocese of Castries. Judge number 1, Ms. Raymond Joseph. Mr. Leighton Can. Leighton Can was born in Jamaica. He is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, where he earned a bachelor's degree in management studies. He is professionally qualified as an associate of the Chartered Insurance Institute of London and carries the title of Chartered Insurance Practitioner. He also holds the title of Chartered Director from the Caribbean Governance Training Institute. Leighton has been living in St. Lucia for the past 29 years. During that time, he has served as Managing Director, CEO and country head of 3 major insurance organizations in St. Lucia. Leighton has been a Rotarian for the past 27 years. He has served as president of the Rotary Club of St. Lucia twice, 2001 and 2002, and again in 2020 to 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, our second judge is Mr. Leighton Can. Melissa Irvin. Melissa Irvin, PhD, is a linguist currently based in St. Lucia. Her research primarily lies in language variation and documentation. She also has a keen interest in language advocacy. She has lectured at both undergraduate and postgraduate level and currently freelances as a consultant and editor. She has also recently been involved in national language policy planning in St. Lucia, along with a number of cultural and linguistic preservation projects. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome our third judge, Ms. Melissa Irvin. Our fourth judge, Mrs. Onel Sanford Bell. Mrs. Sanford Bell is a Caribbean journalist, producer, and entrepreneur currently based in St. Lucia. She was trained at the New York Film Academy and boasts 23 years of experience in the media industry. Sanford Bell has independently produced and executed cross-border content for a global audience where she has explored social, political, and economic issues in the OECS region and indeed the wider Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. O'Neill Sanford Bell. And our final judge this morning is Janica Simon. Ms. Simon is a notable journalist who has contributed to the national and regional media landscape. Ms. Simon served as the news editor for Choice Television in St. Lucia and currently serves as video news editor for the Virgin Islands Consortium. She has a range of skills and talents in the communications landscape, having successfully provided consultancy services to small businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, our fifth judge, Ms. Simon. Now we have been introduced to our moderator. We have been introduced to our judges. So let's get this party started. And with that, I will now introduce you to the first semifinal debate round. And before we begin, we just have some short videos, so I beg your attention to view those videos while we prepare. I will now introduce you to our moderator once again, who will now take over the proceedings, Ms. Raisa Joseph.
Thank you very much, Mrs. George. A warm welcome to all our participants at this time. Viewers, before we begin our first semi-final moot, I wish to announce to you what our debaters from the Dominica State College and the T.A. Marishaw Community College will be debating on. And the topic is: the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems. The T.A. Marishaw Community College will be proposing today's debate, and the Dominica State College will be opposing. Debaters, please take note of our debating procedure. The first: the leader of the proposition shall make his or her case for a maximum of 10 minutes. The leader of the opposition shall then make his or her case for a maximum of 10 minutes. The second speaker of the proposition shall make his or her case for a maximum of 7 minutes, and the second speaker of the opposition shall then make his or her case for a maximum of 7 minutes. The leader of the opposition shall have a maximum of 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then the leader of the proposition shall have a maximum of 5 minutes for rebuttal. At the end of each speaker's allotted time, the speaker will vacate the lectern. The timekeeper shall give a warning signal of 1 minute before the expiration of the speaker's allotted time, and again at the end of the allotted time. Following the rebuttals, the adjudicators will be escorted to a secure venue, and in our case, our judges are not present in the room here at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. They are already in an isolated room. Before the start of the deliberations, the auditor will collect the score sheets on which the scores achieved by each team will be recorded by the 3 judges. The auditor will then compute the final scores, determine the winning team, and turn over the results to the special adjudicator. The auditor is allotted 15 minutes. The moderator may lead an open discussion while the adjudicators are deliberating. So for members of our virtual audience, should you wish to contribute to our discussion following each debate, you are welcome to do so. This discussion must be about the moot points and not the discussion about any performance of any team member of any team. Upon the return of the officials to the debate venue, the chief will speak on the best speaker, and the chief prepared presentation judge will each give a brief constructive critique of the debater's performance, after which the results will be revealed. Once again, I wish to wish all participants the very best in today's competition, and we shall begin our very first semi-final in which Dominica State College will go against the TAMCC Community College. For the benefit of our viewers and participants, the moot is: the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional government's failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems. We welcome the TAMCC Community College, which will be followed by the Dominica State College. We have Ms. Colleen Branch and Teresa Sylvester representing the TAMCC Community College. Best wishes. You may begin.
Ms. Charles has now wasted 20 minutes of class trying to share her screen, and now she's teaching with her mic muted. This happens in every class. If it's not this, then she doesn't know how to turn on her camera or allow students in the class. If this isn't a glaring example of how regional governments have failed to successfully integrate ICT into our education system, then I don't know what is. Judges, opponents, audience, all, good morning. I stand here with great tenacity, resolute and unyielding in our assent of the moot. Be it resolved that the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education system. The issue at hand is important because if shown to be true, there will be a serious charge against regional governments. We would have agreed to their general incompetence. This issue touches the very engine of the social, economic, and political aspects of a country. That engine is education. I will define the salient terms of the moot and establish the foundation of our argument, which is the government's reactive approach, emergency remote teaching, and lack of synergy between policy and praxis. My second speaker will further fortify our line of reasoning. Virtual learning, according to Lumen Learning, Simonson and Schlosser, 2006, is defined as learning that can functionally and effectively occur in the absence of traditional classroom environments. Regional governments, according to Collins Dictionary, refers to the group of people who are responsible for governing countries in a particular area. According to the Oxford Dictionary, successfully means in a way that accomplishes a desired aim or result. ICT, or Information Communications Technology, according to UNESCO, refers to a diverse set of technological tools and resources used to transmit, store, create, or exchange information. Cambridge Dictionary defines failure as the fact of not doing something that you must do or are expected to do. Cambridge Dictionary also defines integrate as the act of combining two or more things into one. The Caribbean region has made strides in the education system over the past few decades. While we commend these efforts, the integration of ICT in education in our region has been occurring at snail's pace, and there is still significant improvements to be made. So you see, Honorable Chair, it is not our contention that the regional governments did not integrate ICT into our education system, but rather that they did not do this successfully. The key words of the moots are successfully integrate. Making reference to definitions put forward of successfully and integrate, successful integration implies that ICT and education coexist with very little hindrances. This now begs the question, did the governments of the Caribbean region successfully combine ICT and education in an effective way? The answer is simple, a resounding no. Firstly, our reactive approach exposed the flagrant lack of ICT integration in education. It is undeniable that the pandemic fast-tracked the amount of technology infused in the educational system, as evidenced by the thousands of laptops and tablets procured by governments for students and teachers at the primary and secondary level. Global Partnership for Education, GPE, supported member states in procuring and distributing devices to at least 12,000 vulnerable primary school students across Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In local parlance, we must give jackets jackets, and so we do applaud the region for their gallant efforts in procuring these devices. However, in a 2020 article on the CARICOM website, Ms. Jennifer Britton, Deputy Program Manager at the CARICOM Secretariat, stated that the region had not yet spent enough time quantifying and fully assessing its full technological capacities. Opponents, is it only when rain falls you will decide to patch your roof? Moreover, the rush distribution of these devices, the speed at which they were introduced, the poor planning, lack of training across the board, lack of infrastructure to support remote learning, and lack of directive regarding use of devices and online platforms is evidence enough of the regional government's failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education system pre-COVID-19. We were reactive rather than proactive. If the regional governments had, as my opponents are arguing, successfully integrated ICT into education system, do you think we would have had to make such drastic changes? I think we all know the common sense answer. The pandemic exposed what was already a failed system. The pandemic most certainly accentuated many shortcomings in the government's attempts to integrate ICT into our education system. This was mostly revealed when educators were forced to engage in virtual learning. Regional government's failure to combine ICT and education effectively calls into question this shift to virtual learning by highlighting that it was simply a case of emergency remote teaching. Hodges et al. 2020 defines emergency remote teaching as a shift of instructional delivery to a substitute delivery approach during a crisis. The reactive and chaotic approach described above, and that which have been employed by our regional governments, is tantamount to emergency remote teaching. The pinnacle of virtual learning is the successful integration of ICT into our education system. The emergency remote teaching that we engaged in reveals that our governments have not only failed, but have failed miserably. Virtual learning involves instructional design, which is an intentional science consisting of strategy and technical and pedagogical support, which can only be made possible through a successful and seamless integration of ICT into the education system. Furthermore, the emergency shift revealed the failed strategic planning for ICT integration within the region. Regional governments are the strategic planners for all spheres of society. Strategic planning involves contingency planning for dealing with uncertainties. Although the pandemic may have been an uncertainty, ICT is part of our reality. Our regional government's stagnation and archaic approach to education was particularly glaring during the pandemic. Policies that have existed for years were not successfully implemented. For instance, during the period 2001 to 2005, the government of Grenada proposed a policy, Strategic Plan for Educational Enhancement and Development. On page 32, we can see stated, and I quote, ICT is to be fully utilized to facilitate learning and develop the technology competencies of a variety of learners through a variety of modalities. Introduction of students to ICT as a tool for learning, use of computer programs to support learning, developing the competencies of teachers in the use of ICT tools for instruction and professional development. Opponents, this is 2022, and these plans were still not implemented. Other islands have similar policies, namely St. Lucia, which proposed their drafted plans in the course of 2003, Jamaica, which launched its proposal in February of 2006, targeting high school students, and Barbados, which began its launch in 2007 with the installation of classroom and lab-based computers. According to an InfoDev survey of ICT done on 16 countries, although most governments have approved ICT policies in education, these policies have had limited impact on educational practices. All of these policies were launched, but with what quality and impact? A project document written by Opal Lawson entitled Monitoring Caribbean Information Societies stated that access to and use of ICT in the delivery of curriculum is a consistent theme that is seen in national ICT policies that have been drafted or approved by Caribbean governments. Caribbean governments are setting unattainable and pie-in-the-sky policies. There is a lack of synergy between policy and praxis in their efforts. In the final analysis, the fact remains that the shift, or rather the push to virtual learning, has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education system. So much so that even after 2 years of online learning, there has been limited impact amidst the rush to return to face-to-face instruction. This reactive approach and failed implementation of policies and strategies have revealed that our education system is ICT averse and tied to antiquated practices, despite the beautifully devised policies and strategies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Colleen Blash. Proposing for TAMCC Community College. We now call upon from the Dominica's State College, Shonali Gordon, who will also have 10 minutes to make her arguments on the moot. The shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT in our education systems. We welcome once again Ms. Shonali Gordon. You may begin.
Good morning, honorable judges, Madam Moderator, my most worthy opponents, and colleagues. On behalf of the opposing side, I welcome you to this debate. Good morning, I am Shonali Gordon reporting for Windward Island News with breaking news reaching our news desk this morning. Last evening, Category 5 Hurricane COVID-19 finished its sweep across our region. Preliminary reports show that there has been minimal destruction of ICT integration efforts in the education system. Several ministers of education across the region have joined their voices together in one acclaim that there are still steps which remain to be taken to improve ICT integration, but Hurricane COVID-19 did not expose significant defects, and as such, the integration of ICT was not a failure. Madam Moderator, having thoroughly examined our regional governments and the plans that they have implemented, my colleague and I will argue unreservedly that the proposition stance is a fallacy. To say that the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed the government's failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems is inaccurate. To support our stance, I will elaborate using these 3 points. Firstly, there's no proven metric which can be used to deem our regional ICT integration as a failure. Secondly, I will draw focus to the numerous examples of ICT integration in our regional education systems And lastly, I will highlight the evident success the Caribbean region has reaped with ICT integration thus far. Before I proceed, permit me to define some key terms. Failure, as defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, is the fact of someone or something not succeeding. ICT, or Information and Communication Technology, specifically in education, is defined as the various aspects of computers, networks, including the internet, software, and other environments that act as a tool for teachers and students by supporting learning and instruction, a definition by Antonio Cartelli and Marco Palmer in the Encyclopedia of Information Communication Technology. Integration, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is the action or process of combining two or more things in an effective way. Firstly, Madam Moderator, my opponents are of the notion that the regional governments have failed to integrate ICT into their respective education systems made clear by the recent pandemic. But what are the determinants of this failure? How does one deem something as complex as ICT integration into educational systems across an entire region a failure? We can agree that success is relative, but against performance standards or some form of metric analysis. Otherwise, such an empty proposition cannot be considered the least bit credible. At the Dominica State College, if you receive an average of less than 50%, you are awarded an F. What is the region's ICT integration passing grade, Madam Moderator? Who is doing the grading? Now, my opponents may draw relations to more developed countries. However, comparison cannot be drawn to first world countries like those in the Americas, Europe, etc. It would be point blank impractical to do so due to the many other factors involved. According to the International Monetary Fund GDP reports for 2019, the year before the pandemic, the GDP for the 4 Windward Islands and Puerto Rico, the Caribbean island with the highest GDP that year, was only 0.5% of the USA's 2019 GDP. So tell me, Madam Moderator, why would we compare our ICT integration and advancement to theirs? With such a great GDP difference, their goals can't be precisely aligned with ours. As the popular saying goes, we stay in our lane. On to my second point, there have been numerous examples of integration in our region. Madam Moderator, let us revisit the Cambridge definition of failure as essentially someone or something not succeeding. The Cambridge Dictionary also defines to succeed as to achieve something you have been aiming for. Therefore, failure can only be considered where a specific goal or aim is not achieved. My colleague and I decided that it was only fair to ascertain the goals of our regional government to further prove that ICT integration was not a failure. According to a 2010 to 2015 National Information and Communication Technologies Strategic Plan for Barbados, one of their goals for the period was to continue to reform the educational system and integrate ICTs fully into the revamped curriculum. A 2015 report by the Commonwealth of Learning entitled Technology-Enabled Learning in the Commonwealth Caribbean Countries, a Baseline Study, notes that according to Mr. Laurie King, former Barbados Chief Education Officer, the Barbadian education system has integrated modern technology into each of the 69 public primary schools, 22 public secondary schools, and 10 public nursery schools by installing in each a smart interactive whiteboard. Towards the same effort, the report indicates that the Barbados Ministry of Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation also introduced tablets into their schools, and it was noted that 16 primary schools obtained iPads. The Barbados Community College, Erdiston Teachers College, and Dewey Open Campus all offered courses to enable teachers to efficiently navigate the technological world. Madam Moderator, would you not say Barbados' initial goal of reforming the educational system and integrating ICT was achieved? Permit me to move further up the archipelago. St. Lucia, in their 2010 report by the Ministry of Public Service and Human Resource Development, introduced the National ICT Strategy of St. Lucia for the period 2010 to 2015. In this, they stated their goal, which I'll read verbatim. foster the use of ICT in education to develop human capacity, enhance competitiveness, modernize the teaching and learning environment, facilitate equity of access, and to develop individuals who are capable of functioning effectively in a technologically driven society. According to the aforementioned Commonwealth of Learning report, all the secondary schools in St. Lucia were provided with computer labs and internet connections. Additionally, training took place at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, where teachers were able to take courses to obtain an advanced certificate in education, ICT integration, and online program. I ask again, Madam Moderator, why then should we overlook the achievement of this goal and dismiss these integrations as simple failures? Let me give another example. Jamaica, according to their National Education Strategic Plan 2012 to 2020, aimed to enhance student learning by greater use of information and communication technology as preparation for life in the national and global communities. According to the aforementioned report by the Commonwealth of Learning, to achieve this goal, in 2014, 30,000 tablet computer devices were distributed to system administrators, school leaders, community groups, teachers, students, and others in 40 educational institutions at all levels throughout Jamaica. Additionally, the report goes on to mention that all 8 community colleges in Jamaica offered at least one associate degree in information technology. To enhance the ICT integration in their curriculums, they also provided ICT courses at each of the island's 12 teachers training colleges. These are only some of the strides the islands have made. I'm unable to fathom, comprehend, decipher how one would reduce the education system with such thorough integration to failures. Moving to my third point, the various integrations of ICT in our regional systems have also reached success. Madam Moderator, in an article published on October 15, 2021, titled Grenada Best Pure Sciences, Student Achieves 17 Grade 1s in SALCC by Caribbean Loop News, it was revealed that the region's pass rate percentage for SALCC mathematics rose from 46% in 2019 to 52% in 2020. Additionally, SALCC English A for the region followed suit, going from 72% in 2019 to 82% in 2020. And even though it fell to 73.39% in 2021, this was still more than in 2019, pre-pandemic. Therefore, the students having to shift to a virtual environment were able to have pass rates surpassing those rates pre-pandemic for these 2 vital subjects. So what exactly did the pandemic expose, my worthy opponents? Honorable judges, Madam Moderator, my most worthy opponents, it is evident that to say the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional government's failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems is a fallacy. Allow me to recap the headlines. There is absolutely no measurement scale which can be used to deem ICT integration as a failure. There have been numerous integrations of ICT in our systems pre-pandemic, and there has been much success in ICT integration following the pandemic. Thank you for joining us for a morning news broadcast here on Windward Island News, where we bring you facts and never fiction. I am Shauna Lee Gordon reporting. Good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now had the first speakers from each team, and we now go on to the second part of the debate, where the second speakers shall present. For the T.A. Marishaw Community College, we now have Ms. Sharissa Sylvester, who will have 7 minutes to complete the proposition's argument. We welcome Ms. Sylvester. May we begin?
Esteemed judges, worthy opponents, audience all, good morning. My team and I strongly propose the moves, and I adhere to the definitions already given by my first speaker and refute those given by the opposition. As second speaker, I will continue to consolidate our position by introducing additional salient points to further bolster our arguments. Therefore, I resolutely declare that the limited pedagogical and technical support, inadequate ICT infrastructure, curricular silos, and traditional culture have uncovered the blatant failure of regional governments to successfully integrate ICT into our education system. The limited pedagogical and technical support for virtual learning further exposed an already failed system. Devices were placed into the hands of individuals who were ill-equipped to use them. What good is a device, therefore, if it is not being used correctly? There was limited training for teachers, students, and parents. Moreover, in most instances, this training was otiose as it was rushed. Teachers were therefore left to figure things out on their own. Opponents, in a time dependent upon technology, how is it that our educators themselves aren't adequately educated technologically? A 2020 UNICEF study on Latin America and Caribbean education systems revealed teachers' limited capacity for use of online platforms and delivery of online education. Apart from limited to no training in the use of platforms, teachers also needed to be trained to design and manage lessons in the virtual environment. Moreover, there was an oversight regarding training for students, since it was automatically assumed that as digital natives, children who grew up in a technological era, we should already know how to use these devices. This is an illogical assumption. These scenarios of teachers and students grappling to use these technologies, which could have facilitated communication information exchange between them, have exposed government's failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education system. Furthermore, there was a lack of adequate ICT infrastructure to facilitate remote learning. The issue of internet access throughout the region has long been a lingering problem. According to an article from the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean entitled Selected Online Learning Experiences in the Caribbean During COVID-19, shortcomings include poor internet speed, quality of internet connection, and low bandwidth access, which negatively affects online learning. A 2020 article from the CARICOM website revealed that the approaches to communication are also exposing the fault line of underserved areas across the community where access to electricity, radio, electronic devices, and the internet is negligible to non-existent. My worthy opponents, it took a pandemic for most governments to ensure that children within the rural communities had internet access, and even then, it was not fully functional. Is that successful integration of ICT? Prior to the pandemic, the integration of ICT into the curriculum was limited. Whereas ICT was infused in IT-related subjects such as information technology and electronic document preparation management, the use of ICT in non-IT related subjects was very limited. In an article entitled Survey of ICT and Education in the Caribbean, 16 Caribbean countries were assessed, and it was found that most ICT initiatives target basic technology skills and support for students doing the SALCC IT exams. The article further highlights that the IT curriculum poses a challenge in the integration of technology in other subject areas. The approach is archaic and traditional, and there is a strong urge to maintain the chalk and talk method of teaching. Additionally, the assessment methods continue to be outdated and entrenched in traditional ways, with mass high-stake exams such as SALCCs being the order of the day. The survey revealed that the high reliance on SALCC exams for assessment limits the potential for changes in classroom practice. The Caribbean region is yet to embrace alternative assessment formats for virtual learning enabled through ICT integration. This is a clear example of how the shift to virtual learning has uncovered curricular and assessment backwardness. According to a 2021 article entitled Latin America and Caribbean Teachers Transition to Online Learning During the Pandemic, Challenges, Changes, and Lessons Learned, the transition to online learning was forced. Hence, there was a reluctance to learn and practice digital literacy by the teachers. If there were adequate seminars by Caribbean governments that taught and trained professors how to use ICT, there would not have been such a resistance towards it. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Caribbean schools did not successfully integrate ICT into their education system. Evidence of this is seen in the restricted use of devices and even internet access during school hours. ICT was demonized. Yes, demonized. Worthy opponents, is this your definition of successful integration of ICT? The shift to virtual learning during the pandemic laid bare our antiquated culture in which there was and still is strong resistance to ICT. Evidence of such resistance and hesitancy communicates to us that Caribbean governments have yet again failed. Judges, worthy opponents, considering the limited pedagogical support, the inadequate ICT infrastructure, the curriculum silos, and traditional culture, there can be no doubt that the case is made. Not only have our regional governments failed to successfully integrate ICT into our education system, but it took the pandemic to unveil this atrocity. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sylvester, for rounding off the argument for the T.A. Marishaw Community College. We now welcome from the Dominica's State College, Hannah Valerie, who will finish up the presentation for the opposition. You may begin, Mr. Valerie.
Madam Moderator, honorable judges, my worthy opponents, colleagues, media, and listening audience, good morning. An error does not become truth by reason of multiplied propagation, nor does truth become error because nobody sees it. A quote by Mahatma Gandhi. Honorable judges, my opponents have sought to propagate an error as truth, but I stand here ready to bring the ongoing discourse back to the side of veracity and reason. The shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has not exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems. No. My colleague has already shown you countless instances in which failure is such a strong word for something as complex as ICT integration in education in our region. And she has also shown you ways in which ICT has been successfully integrated and is still being successfully integrated. I will seek to further solidify our position by showing you what this pandemic has really exposed is integration in progress. I'll also show you how our reluctance to embrace technology and our lack of global funding may be to blame for any perceived deficiencies in the region. My worthy opponents, the shift to virtual learning did not expose a failure in ICT integration, but it revealed what we can call integration in progress. Yes, the pandemic has shown how critical it is for ICT to form an integral part of the education ecosystem in the region. But most importantly, it showed that this process is an ongoing one. Allow me to draw a parallel, Madam Moderator. Recently, on the 1st of March 2022, at the 33rd intersessional meeting of the CARICOM Heads of Government, the current CARICOM chairman, the Prime Minister of Belize, called on prime ministers for deeper regional trade ties for the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, CSME, a regional integrated strategy that was created in 2003, which was expected to be fully implemented by 2008. I dare say we can't say that CARICOM and CSME are failures simply because moves must be continuously made for integration to succeed. The same goes for education. Many moving parts, a diverse region, and resource deficits abound, all a recipe for integrating new things into a system to progress somewhat slowly but surely. By the Moderator, an April 2020 article on unicef.org titled Eastern Caribbean rolls out online education as COVID-19 closes schools, it is revealed that governments have had to make sure that education was not placed on hold during those uncertain times. And I quote, "Ministries of Education are rolling out online education platforms and tooling students and teachers to enable virtual education," end of quote. The article goes on to state that the education of almost 500,000 nursery, primary, and secondary school students across the Eastern Caribbean had been disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, which had touched every country in the sub-region. If ICT integration into education systems wasn't already in progress, Madam Moderator, how could a transition to virtual learning be made possible for 500,000 students? According to the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, in a 2019 report, and I quote, "As part of continuing efforts to expand learning access, Caribbean governments have had consolidated online learning content on specific websites. Island regulatory commissions and internet service providers have also merged, upgraded their networks, and lowered their rates to facilitate online school and minimize interruptions due to high traffic." Integration in progress. Progress, not failure. Now allow me to progress to my second point. Madam Moderator, permit me to ask, are we not aware of the innate reluctance to embrace the use of technology by a lot of our demographic? It is evident, therefore, that integration then would be hindered. According to a 2012 article in ICT Pulse titled, "Are we truly using technology in the classroom?" Former CXC Registrar, Dr. DOMINICA'S Jules, is reported to have challenged countries to revisit the teaching methods being used. He said, and I quote, "The chalk and talk mode of teaching is dead, and it is time teachers start using the tools available to reach their more technologically savvy students," end of quote. Madam Moderator, I dare say the chalk and talk challenge that still existed, that was cited in 2012, still existed at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. We must admit that not all our educators are on board the ICTE train. Some of them are conventional and stubbornly opposed to incorporating technology into education. Honorable judges, to assist the government in fully integrating ICT into education, our educators need to cooperate as well. Also, Madam Moderator, our regional governments need the support of the global community for integration of something as costly as ICT. Consider this. The World Bank in 2013 conducted a study on the need for ICT in the Caribbean titled "Customized ICT Solutions for Caribbean Growth." That was in 2013. But guess when was the first time we received financing from the World Bank for the digital economy? In 2020. And that's according to a World Bank report that year entitled "First Time Financing by World Bank for Digital Economy in the Eastern Caribbean," approved for US $94 million. Honorable judges, they made a big show of giving Caribbean millions of dollars, money that they said we needed 7 years ago for ICT, money they knew that we didn't have. And the list goes on. Yet, my worthy opponents are proud to stand here and willing to call a gap in Caribbean ICT advancements at a global standard of failure. Madam Moderator and audience, before I vacate this podium, I will remind you, our regional governments have not failed to integrate ICT into our education systems. It is a work in progress. And our people and the global community need to be fully on board to make full integration a success. To say we have failed in ICT integration in the region and that our efforts are futile is to say the Caribbean itself is a failure. How dare you, my worthy opponents? How dare you?
The time is up. I thank you for your presentation and for rounding up the argument of the Dominica State College. Viewers, I am sure, like myself, you have been thoroughly engaged in riveting discussion based on the presentations made by our teams from the TAMCC Community College and the Dominica State College. After these presentations, we will have rebuttals. Each team will have 5 minutes to put together their rebuttals. The opposition will have 5 minutes and will go first, followed by the proposition, which will also have 5 minutes. The rebuttals provide an ample opportunity for each team to not only solidify their most critical points, but also to undermine or challenge some of the strongest arguments presented by their opponents. For the benefit of our audience, I wish to repeat the mood that was debated earlier, which is the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT in our education systems. Our debaters today will be judged on criteria which include audibility and clarity, articulation, voice modulation, command of material, persuasiveness, fluency, eye contact, and body language. Additionally, we will look at the soundness of points brought forward. How accurate are these points? Are they substantiated by examples and quotes? We will look at logical development. Arguments are developed in line with the points which have been presented. We look at the clarity, modulation of voices, look at posture and personality, their ability to reach out, capture the audience's attention, command of the language, appropriate use of grammar and vocabulary. We look at coordination as well, making clear links between the leader and the seconder's arguments, recall and analysis, remembering and explaining or paraphrasing the opponent's points, issues of spontaneity, command of material, and also important, body language. Each team, once again, will have 5 minutes to present their rebuttal. The opposition will go first, which will be followed by the proposition. Our teams today have opened up our debating competition with very fiery, I must say, points in deliberations. And we know that members of our virtual audience have been engaged, and we thank you, we welcome you, we encourage you as well to invite other persons to view what has been thus far a very engaging intellectual discussion of our Caribbean minds. The shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems. We had first the TAMCC Community College, who presented their argument, and then we had the opposition, Dominica State College, which also presented their argument against the moot. I'm sure many of you are wondering who will emerge victorious at the end of today's deliberations. The debate is not over as yet, and the rebuttal will give our teams the opportunity to strengthen their arguments, to diminish that of their opponents, and to solidify in the views of our judges who will emerge as the victorious team which will compete tomorrow in the finals. We wish to let you know that the rebuttals will not be included in the selection of the best speaker. That will be determined by the individual presentations that were made earlier. However, the rebuttals do contribute to the team score, which will determine who will go to the finals. In our second semi-final today, we will see the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College go up against the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College, and the moot will be monogamy is not regarded as the ideal for a modern way of life, which promises to be as well a very interesting and engaging discussion. I think we've had very interesting topics chosen for us, and tomorrow, by all means as well, our finals will feature a very contentious topic, not just in our Caribbean, but globally as well. We hope that the rebuttals that will be coming up soon from our presenters will excite us, maybe challenge our thoughts and thinking, and present us how debate can be a good part of stimulating the minds of young people. Our debaters have worked very hard to prepare for this day, and we're so thankful for the support that we continue to receive on our online platforms from Dominica, from Grenada, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, from St. Lucia, from Grenada as well. Our debaters had to follow a set of procedures and also a code of ethics, which I wish to go through at this time. One, teams and supporters should be uniformed, and we saw that earlier on today. The debaters would address the moderator, who is myself, and never the opposing team. After the announcement of the results, there shall be mutual congratulations by the debaters of both teams. Both debaters and supporters are to be instructed to respect the decision of the judges, especially within the walls of the auditorium. Jeering and mocking is not prohibited. Staff sponsors are required to monitor the behavior of their charges so that misconduct and damage of accommodation can be avoided. Neither debaters or staff sponsors should discuss the merits or otherwise of decisions taken by judges during the competition with the mainstream media or on social media subsequent to the end of the debate. So we encourage fair play, we encourage individuals to engage in discourse that is uplifting and constructive. Not everyone will emerge victorious at the end in terms of winning an award, but by all means, we have seen individuals grow in the level of argumentation that has been presented thus far, and we look forward to an engaging second round and finals tomorrow based on fair play and good team spirit. I think the time is currently up for our debaters. At this time, I wish to welcome from the opposition their presenter who will present their rebuttal. The opposition from the Dominica State College will present their rebuttal.
Honorable judges, I believe I should have kept on the mask I came with before all the false news in the virtual air infiltrates me. Madam Moderator, our virtual participation in this competition after years of learning virtually during the pandemic is a testament to the fact that ICT integration is not and has not failed. How dare the proposition put forth such an absolute and false statement? My opponents mentioned that there were problems such as the fast tracking of laptops during the pandemic, which were more reactive than proactive. However, as my colleague said, our integration is in progress. We did make some extra efforts after the pandemic, but is that enough to dismiss our previous integrations? And we also had previously given devices, Madam Moderator. Remember the 30,000 in 2014 in Jamaica that I mentioned? Madam Moderator, failure is an absolute term. You either pass or you fail. Just like pregnancy. You're either pregnant or you are not. Madam Moderator, all the integrations I listed previously show that our integration had begun prior to the pandemic. And as such, it cannot be said that our ICT integration was a failure. My opponents also spoke of a snail's pace, and I must thank them for agreeing with us. As we mentioned, my colleague mentioned that we are integrating in progress. Remember, slow but steady also wins the race. Madam Moderator, my opponents also mentioned the problems such as lack of training and devices. However, we are in progress, and a few bumps and problems cannot be used to write up our entire system as a failure. Marriages have problems. However, the existence of these problems does not write up the marriage as a failure. My opponents also mentioned the failure in our strategic planning and that we set unattainable policies. But as my colleague mentioned, we were promised money since 2013, but it was only in 2020 any actions were made. Madam Moderator, they mentioned the strong urge to maintain the chalk and talk method and the resistance by the teachers. But how is this the fault of the government that teachers do not want to move forward, Madam Moderator? It was also mentioned by my opponents that the lack of internet access in various communities. However, I believe my opponents misunderstood the topic our topic focuses on the integration of ICT in the education system and not in all other sectors like housing, Madam Moderator. As I mentioned in my speech also, schools in St. Lucia were granted internet connections. And seen as for the past 2 years, CSEC exams were administered online, there must have been some internet facilities at the schools, Madam Moderator. Madam Moderator, to say the shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional government's failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education systems is simply inaccurate. There was no basis on which to deem the system a failure. There were many integrations prior to the pandemic, and our regional ICT integration is in progress. Madam Moderator, in the words of my opponent, our governments have not only failed, but have failed miserably. My opponent, to refer to our regional ICT integration as a failure, how dare you make such a false statement? How dare you, my opponent? Thank you.
Thank you so much to the opposition for presenting that very spirited rebuttal. We now welcome from the proposition, from the TAMCC Community College, to close our debate with their 5-minute rebuttal presentation. You may begin.
The opponents attempted to mislead this August assembly. Allow me to now refute their fallacious claims. The opposition mentioned that goals were being achieved and thus integration was successful. The plans, as highlighted in speeches from both sides, indicates that the goals in which you speak of were much more greater than merely the provision of devices. The 2020 article highlighted in my speech proves that the policies were not put into action. We have stated that ICT was integrated. The mood singles in on the word successfully. ICT was integrated, but to what extent? You have failed to consider the mood in its entirety. Goals were being achieved, but it does not equate to the successful integration of ICT. The first speaker stated, the proposition maintains that success is not being determined by the distribution of devices, nor teachers' ability or inability to utilize them. Success also is not about the input, but rather the input. When the pandemic tested the level of integration of ICT, governments as well as teachers and students were scrambling to gather equipment and adapt to the changes. This can never be an indication of successful integration. Your second speaker mentioned that the talk and chalk approach is still there and teachers need to take initiative. We are not blaming teachers for their inability to use ICT in education, but rather the governments. They set the standard and have the power to ensure the rules that they have implemented are being followed. However, was this standard even set? Were teachers mandated to utilize ICT in education, let alone a specific virtual learning platform? Opponents, availability does not equate to success. If guns are given to officers, what good is it if the officers did not require training? They are not freelancers. They operate within an institution and instructions ought to be given within that framework. Similarly, the reason for the provision of devices could not have been achieved if the relevant individuals were not trained to utilize these devices. Moreover, your first speaker stated that an increase in the pass rates that occurred when the pandemic came was an indication of successful integration. Opponents, if ICT was being successfully integrated, why is it that, and I quote, MOE, the Ministry of Education in Jamaica, told editors that the ministry has written to CXC appealing for more time, given that students have had limited face-to-face instruction. What does that mean? Does that not imply that the online teaching that has been occurring has not been successful? This shows that this increase in the pass rate could have been from students taking initiative to study on their own and pass their exams for themselves. This does not indicate that ICT was successfully integrated by regional governments. Slowly but surely, as you stated, getting to the goal does not imply success. You spoke of the limited resources and financial issues, and to that I suggest the redistribution and reallocation of funds. Maybe then, after careful consideration by regional governments, we would be able to fund ICT integration. Functionality also does not equate to success. Just because it is working does not mean it is successfully achieving the goal, that is, to have ICT and education coexisting effectively. Your first speaker stated that there was a comparison of the Caribbean region to the larger regions. At no point in time did we mention this comparison. We were comparing our success, the region's success, based on the policies that we ourselves have set. I thank you.
Thank you immensely to the TAMCC Community College. We have now come to the end of our first debate on the moot. The shift to virtual learning during the pandemic has exposed regional governments' failure to successfully integrate ICT into our education system. TAMCC proposed the moot. The Dominica State College opposed. Both teams had the opportunity to present their rebuttals for 5 minutes each, and the judges will be able to now deliberate as to who presented the strongest arguments and will move to tomorrow's final debate.
I'd like to remind you of the goals of the competition. The WIDC seeks to develop students who are skilled researchers, research skills of students, refine students' public speaking skills, promote deeper engagement of tertiary level students, promote deeper engagement of tertiary level students, and inspire other college students and adults viewing the debates. We remind you of the participating colleges. Participants are registered full-time students of the 4 islands and institutions, namely the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College from St. Lucia, Dominica State College from Dominica, the TAMCC Community College, Grenada, and finally, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College from St. Vincent. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful morning. We've heard exciting debaters, and as we await the announcement of the winners, we will see some more short videos, and we are also looking at the trophies that are going to be awarded to the individuals this morning. We're also going to be looking at some of the gifts that are going to be awarded to the best speakers at today's presentation. The participating debaters from St. Lucia, Ashley Burnett, Jaden Lebron, Jalou Constantine, and Rankage King. He's always teasing me, and I do it deliberately because he's sitting right in front of me. Rankage King. From Dominica, today we had Hanel Valerie, Noah James, Chanel Gordon, and Sammy Daru. That was the team representing Dominica. From Grenada, we had Charissa Sylvester, Colleen Blanche, Joshua Andal, and Rebecca Benet. St. Vincent, we had Nisha Richards, Marika Baptiste, Junior Primus, Shadeen McLean, and ladies and gentlemen, we had such an amazing morning discussing issues that we know all young people are very passionate about. ICT learning, we also talked about, it's interesting because when I was listening to the debate on whether or not monogamous relationships were the best, I've been married this year 22 years, and after listening to both sides of the debate, I said to myself, have I been doing the right thing for the past 22 years? And then I'm convinced, yes, I am doing the right thing. Then I hear the rebuttal, perhaps not. And then the other rebuttal saying, yes, it's confirmed, I'm doing the right thing. So all of these ideas make it interesting, and I'm sure these conversations are going to continue after the debate today. Yes? We would like to welcome any more commentary from the audience. Our online viewers, you are welcome to write in the chat and to express how you felt about today's debates. And also we welcome any young persons or not so young persons in our audience to come to the podium and express your views on the topics that were discussed today. Yes, so as you think about that, I think that we also had an amazing job with our moderator who expressed the fact that she herself was a debater here at the college. And the skills, these skills that our young people learn as debaters is something that is, we cannot put a price tag to it. And in terms of public speaking, be able to express yourself, your thoughts, is one component of it. But it is also important that we can share ideas throughout the region. And that is what debate does. We argue back and forth and then make a determination as to the best way forward. And that is the beauty of our democracy, allowing us to share ideas, allowing us to share, and ideas are also culturally biased, because depending on where we are from, our ideas are shaped. And so this is a very important day. We would like to thank once again the committee members who've worked very hard. It's difficult to try to organize across waters, to get people together. And so the coordination, we would just really like to, a round of applause for the organizers, for the committee members, because it was not an easy task, not an easy task at all. And at this point in time, we would like to acknowledge as well the Vice Principal of the college, Dr. Merle St. Clair Ogis, who has been a champion for these debates and has supported the initiative from inception. So thank you very much, Dr. Ogis, for understanding the relevance and the importance of such debates. So a round of applause for Dr. Ogis. Madam Moderator, you are monitoring the comments. Would you like to share the comment that you have just received from our social media? Yes, please. Thank you. And I must say the moderator is my past student, one of our top Spanish students.
Muchísimas gracias. Es la verdad.
Es la verdad.
We have some comments that celebrate all our participants from across the region. I see a particular comment by an Aikamola Laborde, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, who said that it was an amazing job and I learned a lot. Well done to all of us. I don't want to prejudice the judges, because in the comments on YouTube, individuals are saying who they believe is the best speaker. I will not say who I think it is, so that if the judges make an announcement that is contrary, the revolution is started on my hand. I do not want that to happen. So I will not make that pronouncement. However, just a reminder on the point about best speaker, because persons are sharing who they thought was the best speaker, the individual will not be judged if they did in fact present the rebuttal, but only based on the presentation earlier on and the points presented. Again, our judges, I believe, are well qualified to analyze the debates put forward. They come from a range of fields of expertise, and their tabulations will be audited, which is an important point we have to bring up for our audience. Should anyone feel that, boy, I feel like because they like maybe these people from the Spice, I'll give it to them. Or SVG,
Or give it to SALCC because we're hosting?
Yeah, but we truly want to analyze our students fairly, to give them the opportunity to grow in debate. And I do not believe when we hear the results of the judges, obviously some persons might be disappointed that they don't go to the finals tomorrow, but the level of debate presented today was excellent enough to encourage all our participants to continue to engage, because debate is not just for competition, it is for life, it is for democracy, it is for building character, improving your workspaces. So we want to encourage all those who are viewing, whether they are young people interested in debating as well, to take up debate, for parents to enroll their students in debating competitions for extracurricular activities, and for schools to see the need to infuse debate as part of their programming.
At all levels, primary, secondary, and tertiary level.
Yes, agreed.
At this point in time, we would like to welcome the Chief Judge, Ms. Raymond Joseph, who will give some comments on behalf of the other judges. We welcome Ms. Joseph.
It's good afternoon, is it? Yes, okay. I think I lost track of time. It's good to be back in SALCC, if only for a moment. I don't see myself as the chief judge, but only as the spokesperson on behalf of a team of judges. I want to concur with the moderator that generally we felt that the debate was of an exceptionally high quality. There seemed to be very adequate research done on each of the topics, whether you were proposing or you were opposing. Generally, the teams laid a very good groundwork for the rest of the argument, and that is by spelling out the thesis and how they were going to approach the debate in general. The accent, we thought we had to talk about the accent variations because it was something that came up in our discussion. We had a linguist among us, so we were asking her questions. We thought that the variations in accents did not detract from the presentations, but rather underscored the Caribbean variety that exists among our countries. Most of the candidates were confident in their presentations. If we had to cite weaknesses, one of the things we thought that some teams were particularly more skillful in the cohesiveness of their arguments, and they built on the groundwork very well, on the groundwork that their team members had set before them. There was a strong correlation between ability to maintain eye contact and reading from the notes. It was obvious, because if you're going to go down to your notes, you cannot maintain eye contact with your audience. We thought that if there was a weakness in general about the debates was the rebuttal. And in some cases, we found that the rebuttals appeared to be pre-prepared rather than a response to the arguments being made. I think that generally these are some of the things. We would have preferred to see more direct response to the arguments that were made during the debates. For those who did the best speaker, they looked for speakers who were engaging, who could engage their audience. They looked for speakers who were clear and articulate in their presentation, people who connected with their audience and showed a clear ability to tell a cohesive story with an injection of levity. These were the comments coming from those who chose the best speaker. You said, I remember I told you I was just a spokesperson. These were the comments coming out of. Generally, I think the judging team enjoyed the experience. Some of us were doing this for the first time, and we were really heartened and enlightened and hopeful for the future. Thank you very much.
We thank you very much for your commentary. That's very, very, very helpful. At this point in time, for just some brief remarks, we would just like to invite the Vice Principal of the College, Dr. Merle St. Clair O'Geese, who has a history of these debates. And in terms, she will talk to us a little bit about when we started 5 years ago and what has happened in the past 5 years. So at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Dr. Merle St. Clair O'Geese, the Vice Principal of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm laughing because I'm probably part of the debate now. Because I don't know if I can remember all of those things Miss George wants me to remember, but I will try. A lot of persons do know that I have a real passion for this because of my background in information and research. But we saw a dearth a few years ago, and I suppose it's really needed even more now. And I know most persons do not relate violence and that kind of thing with speaking about topics that you're passionate about and speaking about them with some level of calm, some level of understanding of another person's opinion. And these are some of the things I think we saw a few years ago, and we said, no, we must have those kinds of conversation. And when we were approached, we jumped at it, literally jumped at it. And of course, I pulled Dr. Depredin into it as well. And she was telling me, boy, how can we do this? And I said, no, let's just do it. It'll come. And how can we get support? It'll come. So a lot of this is a lot of faith. And over the years, we've found we're getting even more support from the community, more than we ever had before. And today, this 2022 has marked a time, even I was surprised at the level of support that we received. And as other persons have said before, I hope by next year, when we have to do face-to-face, we get a lot more support because it's even more expensive to host or even to go to other islands. This debate has produced a number of persons that you see, even right now out in the, I should say diaspora, but persons like Raheem, I mean, that's the name that comes to mind. And I said my memory at this moment is not too hot because I was put on the spot like you debaters. That's okay, that's part of it. And it is a wonderful thing to see it because it makes you feel full. And as I've said to many persons, when I see the debaters, even today, seeing the excitement and the passion, they can't even contain themselves, right? I had to be telling them, calm down. But part of it is having the passion, but containment is so important. Being able to think clearly and strategically, even while in the spirited moment. Okay, and I can see the growth of so many of our speakers just in the last few weeks. It is an absolute beautiful thing to see. And maybe as educators, we can see it. We can feel the meaningfulness out of all of it as we go through the process. And I think it is, I sometimes can't even express how I feel when I see the hard work of our staff and the students. It is heartening to see all the stress, but also the meaning they find from it as well. And they're always at it, And when I ask, is everything okay? VP, yes, it's difficult, but we are on it. And I would imagine that's the same thing for all the persons in St. Vincent, Dominica, Grenada. Hats off to you. I salute all of you for the hard work. There was a long time ago, I shouldn't say a long time ago, my son's kindergarten or preschool teacher, I used to say, my goodness, I can't imagine how you'll do that for the whole day. It's just so much energy. Thank you. I'm probably one of the parents, very happy to just let them deal with the energy for the day. But it does mean that we do not thank our teachers enough. We do not value them enough for all what they do on a daily basis. And when I say that they just ask, VP, just give us the latitude, the leeway, we will run. And I have seen them run for the last few weeks for this event, and I've seen them run for many more. So for all the teachers and all the support and all the work that you have done, I say thank you. Even before the event starts, I say thank you so very much. So I think I've said enough, Tracy. Is that good enough? Thank you so very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, VP. As you can all tell, the judges have not finished making their final decisions yet. And so while we wait for those decisions, yes, we're still waiting. We will take some comments and some questions online.
Yes.
Madam Moderator.
No problem. Our virtual audience continues to comment and to share their views on today's semi-final presentations. We have one commentator who states, Brianna Montrope, I was a debater for the SALCC in 2019, and I am honestly impressed by the skills showcased today. Ronella Bino shared it was a very interesting and informative debate. Another person by the name of someone special, I can only imagine, states, former WIDC debater here. Great debate from all of the colleges. I love impassioned exchanges such as these that show the hope of a bright future. Another comment from Valentine Dantes. Not because one doesn't think monogamy is ideal means he or she believes it's wrong. The argument is less about its morality, but more about its suitability in a modern world. Now, another individual is speaking about judging, and I guess desiring judges from all islands, but we have what I would refer to as a CARICOM panel of judges. They're not all St. Lucian, but from across the Caribbean, trained professionals, and I do not believe that because we are in St. Lucia, that in any way will prejudice the decisions of the judging, neither the auditing processing. D.T. Sama says, for the monogamy topic, I think interpretation was a critical factor in the presentation. As it said, monogamy is regarded, making it very clear that it was referring to the situation right now. A sister from the Spice Isle, Kaylin John, said, Grenada! 473 all the way. Another comment was added that, though I'd say going along the lines of what was debated, polygamy was brought up, eventually resulting in a monogamy versus polygamy debate, which strayed a bit from the argument. Well, I'll step away from these comments because we'll let the judges to determine what it is that they would like to do. But so far, most persons continue to contend that it was an excellent debate from all debaters in the first and the second round, and we patiently await our judges. We have been told that patience is a virtue. It is indeed, and this virtue is being tested as we all wait with bated breath, as it is often said, for the results to find out who will compete tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's debate too promises to be very engaging as we focus on vaccination. And there has and continues to be very contentious debates on vaccinations, their validity, among a variety of experts, citizens, religious, the media community. And in our region especially, we've seen a number of groups who have come to the fore who have shared their views on vaccination. And tomorrow, whoever makes it to the final round will be able to propose and oppose the moot on vaccination, which I look forward to as well.
Yes, so do I. So with that said, we would like to invite our audience to enjoy the following videos.
Welcome to the Dominica State College. We are located on the island of Dominica between the two French-speaking islands, Martinique and Guadeloupe. Our campus is housed on 32 acres in the community of Stock Farm. We are a 4-minute drive or a 15-minute walk to the capital city, Roseau. Our college offers 5 programs, namely certificates, associate degrees, diplomas, bachelor's degrees, and competencies, all of which will jumpstart your career or ease your transfer into internationally recognized institutions. As a student, join the student government, participate in our numerous events and activities, or join a club or organization. For application information, email our admissions office at admissions@dsc.edu.dm or call 767-275-3666.
And welcome back. We now invite our moderator to once again share with you the judging criteria for this afternoon's proceedings. Madam Moderator.
Thank you and good afternoon, viewers. We wish to remind you of our judging panel, which consisted of Raymond Joseph, Leighton Khan, Onel Sanford Bell, Melissa Irving, and Janika Simon, all of whom represented the following territories: St. Lucia, Jamaica, Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago, respectively. The teams were judged on the following criteria: audibility and clarity, 15 points, articulation, 15 points, voice modulation, 10 points, command of material, 10 points, persuasiveness, 15 points, fluency, 15 points, eye contact, 5 points, body language, 15 points, which would bring us to a total of 100 points. In terms of our rebuttal, students were judged on the following: team coordination, 10 points, general analysis of debate, 14 points, recall of points, 10 points, ability to refute the points, 20 points, spontaneity, 6 points, which brought us to a total of 60 points for the rebuttal.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I will begin with the best speaker. For the best speaker in the first semi-final debate round, our best speaker comes from the territory of Dominica. And the winner is Anel Valerie from Dominica. Congratulations. Anel from Dominica, congratulations on being awarded the best speaker in the first semi-final debate round. I now announce the best speaker for the second semi-final debate round. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the best speaker for the second semi-final debate round is no other than Junior Primus from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Congratulations to Mr. Primus from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He has secured the prize of Best Speaker in the second semi-final debate round. Now, Madam Moderator, guests, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for, the winners, the overall winners. And we begin with the first round. Grenada scored 603 points. Dominica, 609 points. So our winner for the first round is none other than Dominica. Congratulations to Team Dominica on securing the prize for the best overall debate for round one. For the second round, St. Vincent and the Grenadines scored 580 points. St. Lucia scored 554 points. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners for the second round, none other than St. Vincent and the Grenadines with 580 points. Congratulations.
We wish to congratulate all of our winners and our participants today, reminding you that our debate has not ended, and this represents the first round of the Windward Island debating competition. Tomorrow we will see Grenada, represented by the TAMCC Community College, go up against the St. Vincent Community College on our debate, which will focus on vaccine mandates.
Thank you so much. And at this point in time, to end this afternoon's proceedings, we welcome Mrs. Natalie Jolie Fannis, Senior Communications Officer of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, with the closing remarks. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think the moderator was closing off very well for me already. She was doing an excellent job. But again, let me reiterate that we've come to the end of the first day of debates under the theme, Intellectual Enrichment for Leadership. And what an enriching few hours it has been. I am sure this has left you, the audience, pregnant with expectation for tomorrow's debate. Congratulations to Team Dominica and Team St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We look forward to another day of great representation from our tertiary institutions on Friday, and we ask you to join us again via the SALCC YouTube and Facebook pages to witness the finals of the 5th annual Windward Island debating competition. Tomorrow we will do the official thank you of everyone who participated, but let me give special thanks to the judges for taking time off their busy schedules to be here with us, as well as our sponsors who came on board to make this a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, as we close this first day of the debate, I wish you well, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We're signing off from the campus of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Bye-bye.